Hello, hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another seasonal TBR. In this video, we are going to see what is on my spring TBR and also do a winter TBR wrap up. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. I have my winter TBR here with me and we are going to see what I have read and what I haven't read on this list. So my winter TBR consists of the months of December to the end of February. And since I am filming this at the end of February, I don't think I'll be getting into any of these books. So we are doing our winter wrap up right now. So we are going to start this winter TBR with series and then finish off with standalones. The first and only series on my winter TBR is the Empyrean series. Right off the bat, we did not read this at all during my winter TBR. So between the months of December and February, none of this was read. So I would say in December, I had a pretty rough reading month. I only read 2 books, and one of the books was a book that I've been reading for a month or two. So that was a struggle. And in January, I had other books that I wanted to read first. So this was not really a priority, but I should start making it a priority. However, if you've already seen my March TBR using my TBR prompt jar, we have Fourth Wing on it. So I'm really excited to get to this, and this would be soon to be read in the month of March. The next is a duology, and I only own the first in the duology, which is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And again, I have not read this book as well. And I don't know if I'm going to be picking it up anytime soon, because whenever I think of Divine Rivals, I think of the month of January, or I think of a winter read, maybe fall read as well. However, I did read one book on my winter TBR, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I gave this a 4.75 stars, and I have a reading vlog about this, which is my TBR takedown. This will be in my February wrap-up video, so I won't say too much about this book, but all I can say is that I really enjoyed it. So out of all these 5 books, I have only read 1 out of the 5 books, so that's 20% of my winter TBR read. When we think of it that way, that sounds pretty good. So 20% is not too bad. So hopefully I do a better job in my spring TBR. So my spring TBR is going to consist of the months of March to the end of May. And so that is why we are starting this video so soon. I don't particularly start my seasonal TBRs on the actual day of the season. I don't know why. I just feel like I just want to start it right at the beginning of the month. Maybe moving forward, I might do it near the end of the month, so when the season actually change. But for the time being, I kind of like doing it in the beginning of the month. So we are going to tackle our spring TBR during the months of March to the end of May. So we're not going to start with series this time. We are going to start with standalones and then end off with a series. Let's dive into our spring TBR. The first book on my spring TBR comes to no surprise, and that is by Ash, Oak, and Thorn by Melissa Harrison. I have yapped about this book multiple times on this channel, so I won't talk more about it. This book literally screams spring, and it's actually during the change of the season. We have 3 little people waking up from their winter sleep, and now they all love spring. All of that is written at the back of the book here. So this is very fitting for the springtime. And I actually bought this book for the spring that I can read something in the springtime. This is my first time making a spring TBR, not only on this channel, but just in general. I usually don't know what to read in the springtime, and I think I just gravitate towards anything I feel like reading. But setting a spring TBR makes me feel like I am setting the mood for spring. So I am excited to see how it goes. And I think this would be a perfect book to start with. So I'm thinking of reading this sometime in the month of March, maybe at the end of March when the seasons actually change. That is by Ash, Oak, and Thorn by Melissa Harrison. When I think of spring, I also think of Bridgerton. I think of royalty. I don't know why, but I just think of Bridgerton and royalty. For our next book, it's going to be Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. So I will read the back of the book. That would just do a better job than I would. Izumi Tanaka has never really fit in. It isn't easy being Japanese American in her small, mostly white Northern California town. Izumi, or Izzy, because it's easier that way. Has always felt it's been her and her mom against the world. But then she discovers a clue to her previously unknown father's identity, and he's none other than the Crown Prince of Japan, which means outspoken, irreverent Izzy is literally a princess. In a whirlwind, Izzy travels to Japan to meet the father she's never known and discover the country she's always dreamed of. But being a princess isn't all ball gowns and tiaras. There are conniving cousins, a hungry press, a scowling but handsome bodyguard who just might be her soulmate, and thousands of years of tradition and customs to learn practically overnight. Izumi soon finds herself caught between worlds and between versions of herself. Will Izumi crumble under the weight of the crown, or will she live out her fairy tale happily ever after? So I feel like this is very fitting for the springtime. There is a romance between a princess and a bodyguard, which sounds delightful. I love that kind of romance. Even though I've never read it in a book, I used to watch a lot of Korean dramas, and whenever there's a bodyguard and someone of higher, I guess, status, it's just a delightful watch. So I'm really excited to read this book. I know it's YA, I think, and so I don't really read a lot of contemporary YA romance novels. I don't know, I'm just not too big on it anymore, maybe because of my age. Yeah, I don't really gravitate towards that. However, I do not mind YA fantasy. I don't know, it's just a different kind of genre. Maybe that's why. But for a YA contemporary romance, I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about that. Hopefully, I will enjoy this book. That is Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. Now, the last standalone on my spring TBR is kind of random, I would say. I would classify this more of a summer read, maybe, just based on its cover and I think the setting, if I remember correctly. But our last standalone book on this spring TBR is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I am finally getting to this book. I wanted to read this in the summertime. I don't know why. It's just giving summer, and maybe I'll read the back of the book. Actually, no. I still want to go into this one blind. All I know about this book is that the main male character is a veterinarian, and the main female character and the main male character, I don't know if I guess all I remember is that the main female character told the main male character not to fall in love with her. According to the back of the book, he's a gorgeous veterinarian giving Greek god vibes. But when he opens his mouth, it proves that even sculpted gods can say the absolute wrong thing. When it comes to Abby Jimenez's books, the back of the book really reads as a contemporary romance, but when you actually dive into the story, the book, the content of this book, it's more than just a contemporary romance. So I do know that there is a dementia representation in here. This was why I have been holding this book off. I just don't know if I can read something like that. However, I don't want to skip out on any of Abby Jimenez's books, so we are going to read this. And the second book comes out March 31st, and I want to read this in time for the second book. So Say You'll Remember Me is going to be the third book on my spring TBR. Although I wanted to read this in the summer, because of the release of the second book in this interconnected standalone series, I think we are going to read this in the springtime. Now, to wrap up this video, we have the last 3 books being a series. Again, to no surprise, the last 3 books on my spring TBR is a trilogy, and to no surprise, it is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I really hope I can get through this. Maybe a book a month would really help. So if I read Once Upon a Broken Heart in March, and then The Ballad of Never After in April, and A Curse for True Love in May. But because I didn't finish Finale yet, and I do plan to read that in the month of March, hopefully I can get to Once Upon a Broken Heart right after. So we'll see how that goes. That is a series that I really want to get to in the springtime. This hits another description for spring for me, which is whimsical reads and fairy tale reads. I believe this reads like a fairy tale, and so it's whimsical as well. That hits the spring description for me. But also cottagecore reminds me of spring, even though I don't think I own any books that are cottagecore. So none of these books are cottagecore, but we have something whimsical, fairy tale kind of writing. So I'm really excited to get to this. I won't say much more because I've been talking about this trilogy for some time now on this channel. So the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy is going to wrap up my spring TBR. So here are all the books on my spring TBR. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you do seasonal TBRs, what is on your spring TBR? And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.